It was an unusually hot spring day, even for the middle of May. Over the last week, there had been an unexpected heat wave in St. Petersburg, and even the evenings were hard to handle for Gorchakov. He preferred the cooler weather of early spring and late fall. It suited his military jacket better. The warmer months could make military clothing uncomfortable, particularly around the neck, which refused to loosen. Even on the hottest days, he believed that it would be socially unacceptable and be an insult to the institution of the military. This evening, Gorchakov was rewatching A Life for the Tsar, one of his favorite operas. Going to a theater was his favorite way to relax and gather his thoughts after a hard day at the palace, where recently things were far from perfect. Two things had been chasing him for decades: the growing power of the Prussians in Europe, and the Americans had still not sent the payment for Alaska. There was exceptional pressure on Gorchakov over the postponed Russian-American payment because of the Americans' political crisis. For the last 3 months, the Americans were using Johnson's impeachment as an excuse to pause proceedings. Another sign of the unseriousness of a non-monarchy was that the Americans were not reliable in negotiations. The agreement was made more than a year ago. The land was given, but still, the empire had not seen a kopeck in return. The emperor didn't understand how they could not honor a signed contract within the specified time frame. There was something magical about the Imperial Mariinsky Theater. Such an impressive building, an outstanding repertoire of performers, and a great orchestra. Gorchakov instantly felt a heavy burden had been lifted when in this environment. It was an architectural triumph that had only been opened a few years before. Designed for both theater and the circus, it was a huge building with multiple levels, each broiled in a fantastic gold-colored tapestry and covered by a unique ceiling. Gorchakov sat in his usual spot on the right side of the third level. While not a premium seat, it still had a fantastic view of the stage and orchestra, while not mingling with the commoners below, and additionally, it gave him the privacy he desperately needed. It was exceptionally rare for people to recognize him here. Above all else, Gorchakov was a man of routine. It gave him a sense of control. Being at the right seat in the right theater at the right show allowed him to escape from the exact opposite of routine, the emperor's erratic behavior. The emperor was sometimes very ambiguous when he gave orders, and at times Gorchakov felt he needed to read the Tsar's mind to get things done. In the face of the emperor's frustration, Gorchakov felt powerless, a feeble old man that had passed his youth to the empire, that could do nothing except send reminders to the Americans. Despite his grand age of 70, the experienced diplomat was still a valuable asset to the Russian Empire. He had lived longer than most kings and seen more than most of them too, becoming wiser and knowledgeable in his years. Gorchakov had a lot of admiration for the orchestra, not the center of attention, but especially important to get things done. He liked to see them work their magic and felt that most of the audience overlooked their performance, an important piece of the whole picture. Their beautiful tones were a result of them working in unison, like a well-organized ant colony. They were like him. As he watched the magnificent performance in front of him from the balcony, all the pressure around the Russian-American deal dissipated, oblivious to the notion that his escape from the emperor involved watching another. Gorchakov felt that all the bad feelings had vanished, and with his relief felt more comfortable in his seat, and was loving the distance between himself and the other audience members. And then something surprised him. A quick tap on the shoulder, and someone leaned in far too close to his ear and instantly began to babble about something. The interloper threw too many words at Gorchakov. What he said was completely unrecognizable. It took him a moment to detach his attention from the performance and begrudgingly focus on the unwanted disturbance. And then he realized who it was: his nephew. He never learned how to act like an adult. Even as a grown man, he was still the same annoying kid trying to progress up the hierarchy inappropriately, looking for shortcuts from the people he knew instead of putting in the hard work as Gorchakov did. He always tried to use every opportunity to further himself, often trying to leverage the importance of his uncle's position in the Imperial Council. Gorchakov was almost positive that this would be just another attempt, but there was a chance that it could be something important, and tried to focus on his nephew's words. "So, the dog is very sick, and your wife, lovely Aunt Maria Alexandrovna, is tremendously worried. Her dog ate something bad and," was the only thing Gorchakov could really recognize as words. He immediately switched off, realizing that yet again his nephew was bringing him more idiocy to deal with. The bad feelings were not gone. They were just resting. Good manners, attitude, and high-level communication told Gorchakov that he must always be an exemplary gentleman. He could not just say, "Leave me alone, I want to take my time." He suppressed every instinct not to, even reaching for the vein in his forehead that had started to pulsate as he turned back without saying a word to continue watching. But his nephew continued speaking in close range to his ear, as if it was of absolute importance that Gorchakov got the news now. "Young man," Gorchakov said in a firm and serious tone, interrupting his nephew's monologue without looking at him, "are you an admirer of the opera?" "Yes, uncle, of course. Before his nephew managed to say another word, Gorchakov cut in. "So am I." And he turned his face to the stage, making it clear that this was the end of the conversation. Gorchakov sensed that his nephew had frozen, finally realizing that interrupting him during his favorite pastime was inappropriate. After a short time, he turned back to see that his nephew had gone, and only then could he return to the magic in front of him.